Welcome to another edition of What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. On this week's program, what's a polar vortex? Lots of chatter about it this week, that we may be lined up for one this winter. Been a while since the last one. Barrie Mayor Alex Nuttall stops in, looking back over the first 3 years of his term, what may be in store for the final year and beyond. It's a seasonal tradition, First Light at St. Marie among the Hurons, celebrating its 25th year, and we get caught up with the Barrie Colts. We get the conversation started after this. So we're going to get some snow in the coming days, and it's going to chill down some. That, coupled with some chatter about a polar vortex, had a lot of people thinking we had a lot to prepare for this weekend. Well, it's always good to be prepared for winter weather, but we got a hold of our climatologist buddy David Phillips, who's not convinced we need to be ready for a polar vortex. Not yet, anyway.
The polar vortex you're talking about, that dreaded two words that strikes fear in all of our hearts. But hey, let me say a couple things about the polar vortex. First of all, it doesn't mean every time you get a cold wave in through Barrie, Lake Simcoe area, it doesn't mean it's the polar vortex. You can get a cold air mass from the Yukon or Alaska, Siberia, or the Nunavut, and it can come down through the heart of North America, and it's just cold air. And so that's one thing. Secondly, it's really the weak polar vortex. When you hear about a strong polar vortex, well, that's not to worry about, because a strong polar vortex, it's what it is a core of very cold air that originates in the stratosphere where jet aircraft fly, comes right down to the surface, and it sits there on the top of the pole, North Pole. There's one also at the South Pole, and it spins around like a children's top, a child's top, and the winds around it are polar jet stream winds, and they just confine it like the Great Wall around that, and doesn't let it loose. But what happens is, in this case, for example, there is some thought of it warming at the stratospheric level where jet aircraft fly, and it causes like a nudge, a poke. It's like poking the bear. It's poking this little spinning top, and when it spins, it kind of wobbles now, moves off center, and then begins to leave home. It leaves the Arctic and gets right down to Texas if it wants to. And of course, it brings the cold air with it. So that's why people sort of are concerned when they hear the word polar vortex. What it often means, Dan, is that you get the intensity of the cold, but it's also the duration. It's the fact that it can go on for a week to a month or longer. It really, when you have really cold bouts of it, it really makes for a cold season. And the last one I most remember in the Barrie area was about, I'd say maybe about 10 or 11 years ago. And boy, it was pretty cold. Every month was colder. We ended up with about almost 20% more snow than we normally would get. And, just as an example, we get days below minus 20. Well, those are cold days. We had 4 of them last year. In that year, when the polar vortex really began to bite deep and hard, we had 27 of those suckers. So it really tells you that it's intensely cold, and the duration is just, weeks to months long. But I'm not suggesting this one is going to be the hoary season that we think it is. It's just the fact that we know there's some nudging going on in the stratosphere that could cause this spinning top at the top to kind of get off kilter and start moving, leave home, and go on a vacation to the south. It can go from, Tuktoyaktuk to Tallahassee, and it can bring the cold air with it, and that's what's sort of alarming about it, and that is it can move great distances and bring all of those characteristics of the high Arctic to the low latitudes, and that's what really, I think, kind of strikes people. This one is interesting because it's very early. You often speak of the polar vortex in the sort of middle of January, the dead of winter, or a little later, sort of mid to late January. But this one is early, probably the earliest in 70 years that I remember, is the fact that, wow, this thing has been talked about now, and my gosh, people are hiding under the bed, because, the thing is, we've had kind of a warm fall. Now, November has been kind of just seasonable, but September and October were warmer than normal, as in many parts of Canada. And so Canadians are just not ready for this launch of cold air. We want to be kind of eased into it. Well, there's been no easing in if this is truly the polar vortex. But I don't see this one as. I think it's if it does, it'll appear later in the month. We'll get through November and then early December, and then, maybe by the middle of the month, if the polar vortex is here, then, hey, a winter will happen. It will have the frozen ground. We'll have snow falling. And incidentally, I have to remind you, Dan, this is the year anniversary of 140 centimeters of snow up in Gravenhurst.
We all remember that, David.
Oh, well, we do. We don't even remember what we had, what we didn't have for breakfast that time. We probably couldn't cook it. But in fact, Barrie got only a trace of snow, but our neighbors to the north of us got buried in snow. And hey, not to bring up bad news like that, but hey, that was strictly the lake effect kind of thing. And so this is the thing of the polar vortex. A very cold air coming across relatively warm water, it could turn on that lake effect snow engine. So besides, even though in cold air you don't often get a lot of snow, in our area you do because of the presence of the lake. So that's why back 11 years ago we had a lot of snow, but we also had some pretty cold temperatures. I'm not suggesting a repeat of that. The other thing that I think we have to keep in mind is this is a La Nina year. And so that's like a double whammy. You got the cold polar vortex, you got the La Nina, which generally makes for a more of a winter. So, is that going to be, or do they cancel each other out? I think they compensate each other, so therefore I don't think they actually work against each other. But then there's climate change. We know our winters aren't what they used to be. So all of those make the uncertainty quite there. So I wouldn't bet the family farm on the fact that we're going to get the polar vortex this year. If we do, it probably might come earlier, and we could see one or two bouts of it, not just one.
So polar vortex or not, what are we expecting over the next week or so? Because a lot of people are predicting or saying that this is going to be nasty.
I think begin sort of in the end of the week and over the weekend, we see temperatures cooling off. I mean, it's not going to just drop. The floor is not going to drop. You're going to see temperatures that are going to be maybe a couple of degrees cooler than normal instead of 5 or 7 degrees warmer than normal. So kind of that flip-flopping back and forth. But, we see it maybe cooling off a little bit more on the weekend. And then next week, we see temperatures that are going to be, kind of cool to seasonable normal. There's still a lot of heat left in the lakes and the land and the river. I think that we're going to see moderating temperatures. I still worry about the lake effect snow engine. I think that's certainly kind of something you've got to always be concerned about with any kind of cool air. With the lakes still being wide open and quite warm, we could have those lake effect snow bursts until the lake freezes over. But my sense is that, hey, we're not going to be hiding under the bed quite yet.
So very unpredictable then.
Yeah, well, it always is. Weather is. I mean, we know that winter is coming. It's one of the longest seasons we have. We're the second coldest country in the world and the snowiest. Winter is not uncommon to us. It's just that how will we describe it? Will it be sort of a classic? Will it be just one of the ones we've had in recent years? It's hard to say. And with the polar vortex, it's just something that, hey, keep an eye on. You'll hear about it, but don't necessarily. It shouldn't ruin your life. I mean, it shouldn't be something that you're worried and fretting about. There's other things to think about and worry about other than the polar vortex. As I say, I mean, it's a forecast, and we know what forecasts are like. I mean, they could happen or they couldn't happen. It's just our best guess scientifically is, we think it's going to make a presence in Canada, but whether it'll be just in the west and not in the east, whether it'll be into Europe, we just don't know where this polar vortex will move. But typically it does cover a lot of geography. So if it does come out and come barreling down right to Texas, well, I think that we certainly will feel it here in the Barrie area, even if it was sort of confined to the prairies. And that's what we're thinking about when I look at the month of April or of December. I see much cooler weather out there than it is here around the Great Lakes, and that cold air could stream right down. It's very thick thick condensed air. It's like molasses. It just fills all the nooks and crannies. There's no mountain systems to block it. It can flow right from, as they say, from Tuktoyaktuk to Tallahassee and every area in between. There's not a lot you can do about it in terms of preparing for it, unless, just make sure that you know where your long johns are and your polar fleece garments, and that is about what I would say in preparing for it. I wouldn't make any personal purchases to prevent it. It maybe means a little bit more of your heat, of spending money on your heating, and make sure that you think that your water pipes won't freeze, so you could take precautions there. But generally, it's something we just have to grin and bear it.
Barrie Mayor Alex Nuttall has been watching over the city for 3 years now, recently laid out what he and council have been able to accomplish. Barrie 360's Ian MacLennan brought him in to talk about that, what's left to do, and what he wishes he could do.
Welcome, Mayor Nuttall. You held a news conference about a week ago to talk about highlighting City Council's successes over the past 3 years. Some people might have interpreted that as shall we say, maybe a hint that you might run again in the next municipal election. Where do you stand on that?
Well, it's something we've done each and every year. I think it's important that we're constantly communicating the things that are happening in the city of Barrie, and so folks are able to, be part of it and understand and get involved in areas of the city they want to get involved in. And so after the first year, we did a 1-year update. After the second year, we did a 2-year update. And after the third year, we did a 3-year update. I don't think there's anything special about that.
So it said on the sign on the podium, getting it done. So let's talk about where you were at the old bus terminal. Lakehead University's moving downtown Barrie. How's that going to transform the core, do you think?
Well, it's one of many things that's happening downtown. I think that the idea that we can do post-secondary education in our downtown is a really good one. We've got Georgian College, obviously bringing 1,000 students downtown opposite City Hall. We've got Lakehead University opening up at the transit terminal, or the old transit terminal now, and also space up the street. So I think between those two items, you're going to see a lot more people down there doing their day-to-day, and that's really important. Part of having a safe and a secure community is having folks in the space that are able to use it for what it was designed for commerce, for coffees, for tourism, and all those things. And so I think that these are really positive steps forward for the city of Barrie, positive steps forward for the downtown, and there's a lot more than that happening, right? Like when you look at our 3 years in office, we went out, we had to expropriate land to get a fire station built on Mapleview Drive East, Fire Station 6. That was obviously very important when you consider that we had a tornado over there and it took close to 13 minutes to respond to it. So that's done. We have the Performing Arts Center, which we're going to be moving ahead with, which is also going to have a secondary use as convention space. We've obviously got these two institutions moving downtown. We've got the Regional Innovation Center that's coming into play. We've got a library being built with that new rec center we're putting in South Barrie, a new library put in over on Ann Street in Letitia Heights, where Councillor or Deputy Mayor Rob Thompson was able to secure the support for that, and putting those services into communities that are disadvantaged, I think, has a massive payoff for many people for the future. So there's just been a ton happening, and that's on top of all the roads that are being fixed and getting the finances for the city of Barrie put back.
Yeah, if you were in the orange construction sign business, you'd make a killing in Barrie, that's for sure. I'm just wondering, though, in terms of what's on the docket and when completion, because people do, the Performing Arts Center is one that, to be fair, has been discussed for years and years and years. Are we now on a road to where we're actually going to see something come to fruition? Yeah,
last week, actually, we released a video when we were at the Arts Awards, and we did the same thing on the Wednesday when we were doing the 3-year update, showing what the inside of the facility would look like, what the outside of the facility will look like. Obviously, having the arts at the center of our city is a very cool thing. I consider Bayfield and Lakeshore kind of center ice for the city of Barrie. It's where downtown meets our waterfront. And so that's going to be a really, really amazing asset for the city, having a coffee shop down there as well. Also being able to put in a restaurant in that facility. I think it'll make it a very cool people place that people want to be at. And so our goal is to get in the ground this year coming. We're just finishing out a whole bunch of the design on that front and the costing. And we'll be moving ahead. But when you think about it, right, like let's go back now to the beginning of the term. The fire station didn't even have land purchased. The rec center didn't have land purchased. There was no regional innovation center. There was not a plan to pay for the Performing Arts Center, which we now moved the location and are fully funding that. There was no Lakehead going downtown, no Georgian going downtown. And then you look 3 years in and you see all of these pieces now moving into place where it doesn't matter if you're, 5 and you're looking for recreation on a soccer field or a rec center or wanting to go to a show or an opera, we're going to have facilities for all that.
You're saying it's gone from the drawing board into actually something that's real.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way you do that is by right-sizing the finances of the city. Like when we were elected, there was no money to do any of these things. And so we had to, substantially change the foundation of how the city of Barrie was working, investing in infrastructure, investing dollars in the roads and limiting that infrastructure deficit. And at the same time, ensuring that we were doing 0% increases on our operations for all 4 years. I think it's quite a record and we're very proud of it.
Yeah, we talk about the people hear about the new builds and what have you, and the construction, and people want their roads, fixed, improved. What does it mean to me that if I'm a homeowner, and you touched on the 4 straight years of the operational budget being at 0%? In layman terms, when you're talking operational, what does that mean?
It means that we haven't expanded our staff complement. It means that we have lived within budgets. Inside of the operating side. So the city of Barrie has really 2 sides to the budget we control. One is the operating. That's all your programs. That's all of the, sweeping the roads and cleaning the roads and the sidewalks, et cetera. And then you've got your capital plan, which is building the infrastructure, like building the road instead of cleaning it. And so we've been very focused on getting the roads fixed, ensuring that the city's infrastructure was brought up to snuff because it's been left alone for many generations at this point, and ensuring that the things that people would expect to have in a beautiful city like Barrie, they have available. Like it shouldn't have taken 30 years to get a performing arts center done, right? Like that's clear. It shouldn't take 20 years. It was 2008 when I got that rec center approved in Southeast Barrie when I was the Ward 10 city councillor. It shouldn't take from 2008 to 2025 to get land to be able to build the rec center on.
So there's also a 2% levy that's added to the base?
So there's the infrastructure levy, and that's what's paying for all of the stuff. And getting the roads resurfaced and making sure the pipes are all operating as they should be, that we don't have leaching out of the pipes into the ground, which is obviously something we want to avoid. And so that's what the infrastructure dollars go towards. And then on the operating side, as you said, that we have a 0 for 4 years running.
And capital, you've got the police, you've got the county of Simcoe, conservation authorities, et cetera. I think your first year was 2.89% property tax, and then 4.82, then 4.31. So it's gone up slightly. How much is that connected to the city and the operating? You said it held it to 0, and how much is it your partners, so to speak?
Well, I think that there is a reality that there's things that we get invoices for, right? So policing's one of those things, the county's one of those things, the Simcoe County Health Unit's one of those things, like conservation authorities, they're both, the library's part of that. So when they send in invoices, it is literally an invoice.
You can't send it back and say rejig it though?
So what we've done in the past already, actually on this term, this is, one of the things was setting the standard of what we think is acceptable for budgets both inside of the city and outside, is we've gone and conducted value for service audits of organizations that we felt needed to be
You did the library?
And the county of Simcoe, right? So the library, actually, I think we have a really fantastic thing going. I mean, when you look at the library expansion that's taking place, one in Letitia Heights, one in west or southeast Barrie. Call it South Central Barrie because it's so close to the 400, where the new rec center is going. You look at that, you go, okay, we've got service expansion happening, and we're limiting these to 1% increases or 1.5% increases on the library board, where others are seeing 10 and 15% increases from the library board. Likewise, at the police board, we've been seeing kind of 6, 7, 8, I think is the last few years. And if you look at other boards, go to York, go to Peel, you will see that those increases are, far more than the city of Barrie has over the last number of years.
Issue around affordability. People, Barrie's the rents are coming down, but the affordability issue. You were at a news conference near the Painswick Library with Pratt Homes, a build there, another one right on Mapleview Community Church property that will also had some affordable housing. So are you making headway? And how do you answer for somebody who says, I'd love to buy a home in Barrie, but I can't right now?
Well, I think there's twofold. So can we start on the rent side? Because it's interesting. We're talking about the operating and the capital budgets for the city. There's also two kind of different sides to this affordability issue. One is the rental side and the other one's the purchase side. So to start on the rental side, you mentioned two projects, one at Mapleview Church, one over on Dean Avenue beside the Southeast Library. And both of those projects are really good, okay? Like that's going to bring on, called 155 units between them, 31 supportive housing and affordable housing at Mapleview Church, and then I think there's about 24 affordable housing units going in at Dean Avenue. That's really good news, right? That's 55 new affordable housing units, but that's not going to change the world, right? And I think that what we need to do is focus on changing the world. So there's a few things we're doing on this. One is any of those affordable units that are coming into fruition, they need to be filled by Barrie families. I'm not looking for families to move from, Richmond Hill or Oakville or Brampton or
They have
Vaughan.
to be within the municipality?
They have to be within the municipality. And so that's something that we're making each of these organizations sign as we go through this. The second thing that's really important on this is that we've now opened up, because we saw such positive response to this. We've opened it up. We've gone from contributing somewhere in the neighborhood of I think it was 30 on the affordable housing side, plus another, call it 3 to Mapleview Church, so 33, up to 83 million. And what that's going to do is going to deliver probably another 10 buildings on top of the ones that we were just talking about to market on the rental side.
Now, on the rental side, you have offered incentives to developers too?
Sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we offer to developers that if they're going to build affordable housing inside of these units, 20% affordable housing, then they need to be able to have an incentive to make that happen. And so we've waived development charges on the entire building in order to get that 20% affordable housing. What happens after that building's complete is 50% of the tax revenue that would be coming in from that building is going to go back to the DC account. So what we're doing is we're borrowing from developers to incent developers. We're borrowing from the DC account to incent developers to build affordable housing, and then we're using the developments that they build to repay that DC account.
To recoup, you mean?
Exactly. So
what do you use the DCs for? Because to be clear,
DCs are
because it sounds like a risk if you're not getting something back, though.
But you are getting it back.
That's what you're saying, yeah.
Right? Because if you pull money from the DC account and you don't repay it, what you end up doing is putting yourself in a position where when you need that road expanded down Yonge Street, or you need the rec center built, or you need, whatever set of development-related infrastructure that needs investment in, you won't have it there. So that's why it's important that you do have the full circle of the funds that are being created through taxation on these new buildings going back to repay that DC account. But if you compare it to the current system right now, the taxpayer is responsible for building affordable housing. We go out, we ask for you to contribute because the county of Simcoe asks us to contribute, and we literally just tax the people of Barrie to create affordable housing. What we're doing in this case is we're using taxes generated from the developers to support affordable housing in Barrie, and we're removing removing the operational cost of that affordable housing altogether. So where we've waited, 15 years to get 215 units over on Rose Street, which is now finally under construction with the county of Simcoe. That's right. We've waited 15 years for that. What we're going to see is instead of 215 units at Rose Street, we're literally going to see 500 or 600 units of affordable housing coming to Barrie, started next year, and $0 contributed by the city to make that happen. Whereas we're $50 million into that build over on Rose Street.
Rose Street. Mayor, we're running out of time here, but you declared a state of emergency regarding homeless encampments, and it raised eyebrows and maybe some ideas across the country. You've been, from Victoria to wherever, you've been contacted by media and other mayors. How would you gauge the metrics in terms of your state of emergency being a success, for lack of a better word?
Well, I think that there's metrics in place that we put in place in advance to say, look, this is all about the number of tents and the number of people taking service. Right? So what is the total number of folks that need help out there, and what percentage of them are actually taking the help and support? What we found so far is there's been some very positive results. We are now down to 0 of the large encampments. The large encampments were Mulcaster over in Milligan's Pond, Diamonds Creek on both sides of the road over at Ann, and whatever the side street is there, Victoria or Vespera. Yeah. And so those have been all removed. So that means we've been successful on that point. I haven't got the final back from Milligan's Pond, although we're expecting a tailoring off of the number of people that are taking help and support, because the ones who said no over at other places, I think, moved over to Milligan's. So we're now going to people that have already told us no. Those initial ones, though, we were sitting at somewhere around 82%. Taking support and help. I think we'll see that dip somewhere around to like 60% or 65% overall, which is still far above the 50% that was projected by other mayors who have removed encampments. So I think that overall we've seen a reduction. If you go back to the beginning of August, it would have been somewhere in the neighborhood of 180. In September, we were somewhere 120, and today I think we're somewhere around 45 to 50. Tents left in the city.
You've been talking about what City Council has accomplished. You incorporate everybody in this, not just I the mayor.
Yeah, of course.
But you yourself individually. If you will let the city of Barrie, taxpayers or otherwise, grade you, what do they think as we approach the end of your 4 years? What grade do you think you would get?
Well, I think that's an issue by issue answer. Right. I mean, there's things that
column by column. Yeah,
column by column. I think that you don't get one grade in school. You get a grade for each one of your classes, right? And I think there's some things that we've done incredibly well.
What do you want to do better? What do you think you want to do better?
That's a great question. I think that we've got a good team atmosphere. That's good. So let me go through the things that I really like first, and then we'll go through some of the things that I think we need to do better. I think we had a really good team atmosphere. Everyone's cooperating, working together. There's good vision here right now in terms of achieving things. There's good, ways to audit that. Like you can ask things like, well, when's the Performing Arts Center getting done? And when's the university opening? Like there's very easy to understand, measurable things that you can ask. And so I think there's been a lot of good work on that front. I think where we need to perhaps do a little bit better is getting from the idea stage into the completed stage faster. Now, part of my frustration on that would be like I'm from the private sector, and you can move quickly in the private sector. In the public sector, you're not just building the thing; you have to build it and have all of the policies that exist inside of that government structure adhered to right through to the end. And so I think the implementation side, we are doing some really great things on that. I just talked about the fire station and the Performing Arts Center and all these. However, I would have loved to have a university open September 25, not September 26. It's going to be open to September 26. I would have loved to have the Performing Arts Center starting to be breaking ground today, and it's going to be, sometime this time next year. And so, those are things I think that we got to figure out how to be even better at.
Well, people who enter politics with the right attitude, maybe, change the world or change something in the community, do discover that sometimes it moves like molasses, not very fast.
Yeah, look, I'm not a fast runner, as you know, but I can tell you that I can move faster than the government can sometimes. But there is, to be fair, there is built into that protections for the taxpayer, protections for the people and the citizenry, right? So
I guess you've got a city staff too that has to make sure it's done right.
Exactly, it's a push and pull.
The annual First Light celebration begins tonight at St. Marie among the Hurons in Midland. We're joined by St. Marie's Michaela Lefebvre. 25th year for this, Michaela. How did you get started?
So it began as a way to open up the historic site during the winter months. So we wanted to create a holiday experience here at St. Marie. And it started as a fairly small sort of community event where we lit candles on the historic site and offered our regular historical programming. Of course, over the years, it's grown into this beloved holiday tradition for so many people. We now welcome thousands of visitors every year. We have lots of live music. We've incorporated our partners at the Martyr Shrine. So this year's First Light should be better than ever.
Runs Thursdays through Sundays, 5:30 to 9. How do people get involved?
You can book tickets online if you'd like. They're $15 a person, but you can also just walk in if you'd like. No reservations are required. However, we do have a lot of fun add-on experiences that we do recommend you book in advance. So if you want to have like a holiday dinner or join our behind-the-scenes experience or our candlelit choir, those sell out. So if you want to attend something extra, then make sure you book your tickets in advance. Otherwise, just come and enjoy.
You have something new this year too, overnight cabin stays.
Yeah, we're excited about those. St. Marie has long wanted to offer sort of an overnight accommodation experience right off the historic site, and we're actually just launching them in time for First Light this year. So they're 3 4-season cabins. They're tiny but adorable. They're so well appointed. All the furniture is built by our carpenters. They have little fireplaces in them, and there's fire pit outside, and they're along the Wye River. So it's a serene, lovely spot, and of course they're just steps away from the historic site. So if you want to sort of have a late dinner at First Light and then stay, it's a great option.
And what's the cost to stay overnight?
It is $200 with tax to stay, and that includes your First Light admission.
And this isn't just about candles. As you mentioned, all kinds of other events. There's some history to take in, lots of things for the kids to do as well.
Absolutely. So for this year's special edition, the 25th anniversary edition, we're bringing back all the classics. So all the elements of First Light that people love the most. So that's lots of live music, an extensive artisan market with about 50 artisans each night, historical demonstrations, including blacksmithing, which looks super cool in the dark, some crafts, and over at the Martyr Shrine, they've got a visit with St. Nicholas, and they've actually opened the Shrine Church. And in addition to all of those wonderful experiences, we do have a few cool add-ons that I mentioned before. You can join a behind-the-scenes tour before we open our doors. You can join a choir and actually help perform live music on the historic site. And then we also have special dining experiences. There's these crystals that you can, it's almost like dining in your own snow globe. That's just also happening during First Light. So lots to experience, lots to do.
That's a lot to cram in.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, if you start right at the beginning of the night, which we do recommend, then you can do it all. And we have lovely little shuttle that goes between St. Marie and Martyr Shrine to sort of facilitate travel between the two spots. So.
And you have all these candles lighting your way, 5,000 of them.
Yes, and it takes us about 2 hours, like a crew of 15 to 20 people, about 2 hours to tackle them. Section by section, we have it down to a science now. But it's a labor of love, right? We do it because it's gorgeous and it's a one-of-a-kind, unique experience in Ontario.
It would be worth the price of admission just to watch you guys do that.
You know what? That's part of why we started this behind-the-scenes thing. It's because people always ask us, how long does it take you to light the candles? How do you do it? How many candles? So the reason we launched this behind-the-scenes experience is we're offering people a little glimpse into how we do it. Actually, our behind-the-scenes guests are going to help us light candles.
And who gets to blow them all out?
The same crew that lights them. We're a sturdy, we're a pretty sturdy crew at the end of the night. But, for some reason, it's a heck of a lot faster to blow them out than it is to light them.
Funny how that works, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
You mentioned getting tickets ahead of time. Where do people do that and get more information?
Yeah, so you can go to stmarie-events.ca and navigate to First Light, or just Google St. Marie among the Hurons, or First Light. And every bit of information you could ever need to plan your visit is there. And booking's as easy as just clicking the Buy Tickets button.
Thank you so much for this. Thanks for doing this. I was there a few years ago with my grandkids, and they loved it.
Oh, that's lovely to hear. Yeah, it's to me, it's a family-friendly affair, right? Like all generations enjoy this event. I'm so glad that you did too.
Barrie Colts sitting pretty atop the OHL Central Division. Barrie 360's Julius Hearn gets us caught up with Colts analyst Gene Pereira.
Gene, I think the city should really start getting behind this team because I don't remember a stretch even last year when they were this hot. Points in 12 straight games. They're still second in the Eastern Conference, first in the division, 13-7, 1-4. A couple three road wins in a row this past week. Let's start off with Wednesday because big moments for Cole Emerton and Justin Hanser. Each got their first OHL goals. Emerton, guy from Oro, he's just 17 years old. How well is he really fitting in to this team in his first year?
It was really a big stretch for Cole. For a young defenseman, usually it takes a bit of time to find your way. And, for Cole, I think the opportunity with the increased ice time with Keyshawn Aitchison and Eliason out of the lineup, that meant big minutes for him. And he really came through. And you saw that, again, that development curve just kind of move ahead big time with him. And I think a lot of it has to do with confidence. He's just more confident in his game, and as well too, just on that winning goal in the third period. It came from a big time shot. It's something that we haven't seen as much. He's been more of a distributor back there, but it was a beautiful shot to the top corner that won the game. And I think for Cole, it just really was a big step in his development. It showed that here's a young guy again being counted on for so many minutes and delivering big time.
Because they also had 3 assists on Saturday against Niagara, so you can also tell he's really starting to he fits in so well, like you were saying. He's going to be really key down the stretch about December when we get to the World Juniors. I'm sure I'll ask you about that a little later. But same question here for Justin Hanser, another younger guy who's starting to fit in, also gets his first OHL goal. What have you liked from him?
Yeah, Justin again. Another guy that got key minutes with Aitchison and Eliason away, was in that top 4, and he played really well. And this is a guy that last year at times he played forward to kind of worked his way in the lineup a bit, kind of in and out of the lineup, just kind of filling in. And this year he's had a more consistent role. And with Eliason and Aitchison out, he really stepped up big time. And we're starting to see a bit of offense from him as well. Taking the puck up the ice, and before that he had set up in Sudbury a couple of weeks ago. It's a real nice goal, and this time, getting his own goal. And it just speaks again to the confidence that these guys develop, getting some more ice time. As Dale Howarchuk used to say, is getting some mileage and that confidence in their games, taking over.
We've talked about this before, but a lot of games against Sudbury over the last month and a half, especially on the road. With all the games kind of so condensed together, not really much time to kind of, make a lot of changes against that one particular opponent. But what has been different about these games between Barrie and Sudbury?
I don't know different, but one thing is constant. When you play that many times in a month, you don't need long memories to remember what happened last game. So they've been physical games between the two division rivals. They normally are. I think Barrie, has found a way. You start with an early loss, getting off that run of 4 games here in Sudbury with a loss, but they've been very good in Sudbury ever since, Barrie, and getting it done in different ways. Hagen Bach got his first win Arvin Jaswell was good there, and of course Ben Rebick. But finding different ways to win, which has kind of been the way that Barrie's been through the stretch, where maybe they haven't been at their best, but they keep finding ways to win.
Yeah, because Ben Rebick, 45 saves Wednesday in Sudbury. Then you go to Arvin Jaswell in Erie, 38 saves, and then the win in the shootout. Would you say the Colts are maybe relying a little bit too much on goaltending, or do you see it a different way?
Oh, they have. And I mean, through the stretch that even though, 10 wins, a couple of an overtime and a shootout loss, the point streak's been impressive, but, their play hasn't been at the best. And, that good teams find a way to win. And right now, Barrie is doing that when they're not at their best, and they've relied heavily on their goaltending at times. Rebick has just been outstanding through the stretch. He's really turned the corner, and the Colts were counting on him as a top goaltender, and he's delivering big time. And even the young Jaswell came in, played really well in Erie, coming off after being off for a couple of weeks. So, goaltending's been a big factor for this team right now, and at times when maybe they're not at their best, it's carrying them, and right now that's got to be a positive.
They look at the game on Saturday in Niagara. The tables almost turned on them in that third period, because remember, last time they were in St. Catharines, that big third period comeback. This time they go into the third period with a 3-goal lead, and it almost kind of gets away from them. They end up winning 4-3. What'd you notice in that game and the way that they ended up getting the big 2 points?
Yeah, they played well, and again, that kind of like a late collapse, and Barrie, Dylan Smoskwitz wasn't happy with the way they played down the stretch in that game, allowing Niagara back into it late, and Niagara almost tied it up in the final minute, the final seconds. Rebick had to come up with a big stop, but again, a big win on the road. And, that was a Niagara team that, that even though they were down 4-1, look, they remember Barrie's big comeback when they were down 5-1 in the third, and they came back to win in a shootout. And you got to be careful. It's a talented Niagara team that even though they're going through a struggle here and have lost, that was their 7th loss in a row, and that loss to Barrie. There's a lot of talent, especially firepower in that Niagara team, and you can't count them out. And a bit of a lesson for Barrie that you got to keep the foot on the pedal.
How much of a concern was the PK over this past week? Because they allowed at least 1 goal in each of those 3 games. Niagara was 1 for 7, so I guess their kind of lack of success really helped the Colts in terms of the statistics. But 4 for 14, the Colts their opponents were on the power play against them. So how much of the concern is the penalty kill still?
Yeah, it's still kind of a work in progress. It's been much, much better. When you talk to Coach Dylan Smoskwitz, the big thing is staying out of the box. And at times the Colts have had an issue with that. And, what's the kind of the best solution for the penalty kill is not getting penalties. And Barrie at time, they're disciplined. They're one of the league leaders in penalty minutes, and it's something they're going to have to turn around. It's been a change for them. For the last few years, Barrie's been done a good job of kind of staying out of the box. But this year they're right up there in penalty minutes, and it's proved costly. And even though their penalty kill has taken kind of big steps towards improvement, I think Emil Hemming has a lot to do with that. But it's not something you want to rely on, and it starts with just staying out of the penalty box.
Coming up this week, another back-to-back at Sudbury on Friday, at home to Kingston on Saturday. What are you expecting of another back-to-back there with travel?
Yeah, and it's a Sudbury team that's going to be really hungry, and when you face a team that many times, I mean, they're determined, especially when they're on home ice. And like I said, one thing I keep repeating is these two Central Division rivals have a long history, and it doesn't matter where they are in the standings. It's always a physical contest, and there's always a lot on the line. And those Sudbury players are proud, and they know that they've kind of taken it from the Colts. So I think Friday's game is going to be pretty tough, but the Colts have always found a way again. And then you go back late Saturday afternoon in Kingston. It's a little mini road trip. And the Frontenacs have played well to start the year, and it'll be a good test for the Colts coming off that as well. So obviously you want to keep the streak going. Points are important in winning the Central Division. Barrie's managed to kind of climb up on top now, and they could start putting some distance between them and the other teams if they keep this run going.
So we're recording this on Wednesday the 26th. The World Juniors a month away. How confident or how concerned are the Colts knowing that they'll be without Baudouin, Aitchison, Elias, and Hemming for about 5 or 6 games a month from now? We talked about Cole Emerton not too long ago and how well he's fitting in, those young guys starting to build their experience. How do you think this team is going to react once those guys are out of the lineup for that stretch?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt you're taking major players out of the lineup. I think Barrie could be without 4 of their top players, and Cole Baudouin, Keyshawn Aitchison with Canada. Then you got Emil Hemming with Finland, and Gabriel Eliasson possibly with Sweden. There's no doubt that you're required, but talking to Marty Williamson just over the years, it's a great moment for these players in their development, being able to play on such an elite level. I mean, all these players dream of playing at the World Juniors, but it's something that teams have to go through. And you often hear with coaches, they always talk about opportunity, and this will be an opportunity for the Cole Emertons again, and the Justin Hansers, and even the Armstrongs and those type of guys, Vaders, to step up and get some more major minutes. And they're going to have to rely. Their goaltending's been really good. They'll have to be good through the month of December as they play without those players.
Couple more for me, not necessarily Colts related, but we just saw on Tuesday night the first game of the CHL USA Prospects Challenge. I know there's not any Colts in this 2-game set, but would you say that's essential viewing at all for anyone that's interested?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Part of the lure with junior hockey is, you get to see the stars of tomorrow, today, and young and develop. And that top prospects game, you get all the top young guys going into the NHL draft. And, one thing you learn with those games is that even though, you think, okay, this is kind of a glorified exhibition, it's not. I mean, those players are fighting for rankings, and they know they all want to go as high as possible. And those games can be pretty exciting to watch when just, that line, that competition, and they know that all the scouts are in the crowd. They know that playing among their peers in that draft group, head-to-head can make a difference, and it'll stick a long time with NHL teams about how they did in that group. It's just, I think it's one of the things that the CHL has done really well in bringing these top prospects games together. You've seen them play Russia, now the U.S., and it really is great hockey to watch.
Plus, the CHL jerseys are pretty sick. I'm not going to lie. The throwbacks, really nice. Last one for me. Brantford, yet to lose in regulation through 23 games. The Colts are right behind them as their division leaders. So as it stands right now, they would play in the conference final, which would be probably the best case scenario for the Colts, I think we would both say. But what was the last time you saw something like this, a team that hadn't lost in regulation this far into a season?
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. And, Barrie's actually able to win a hockey game in Brantford, their own meeting with the Bulldogs this season. They win it in overtime. Again, but this Bulldogs team, they're already loaded. They've added a couple of 2 outstanding defensemen, including Dansford, the first-round pick from the Toronto Maple Leafs, in a trade, and the recent big trade for Jet Lachenko. This is a team that's loading up and taking a run. And, for the Barrie Colts specifically, the way they look at it is if you can win that Central Division, there's an opportunity to avoid them until the conference final if they can make a bit of a run. And I think Ottawa's off to an outstanding start, this season in Peterborough. So there's an opportunity. A lot of people ask me, with Brantford looking so good, what's Barrie going to do at the deadline, the trade deadline? Would they add up and take them? I always, one thing you learn is that with teams is if you can go on a bit of a playoff run, teams build confidence. And like you said, the way Rebek's playing goaltending, anything can happen. There's no doubt that Brantford team right now, though, is a class of the Ontario Hockey League.
Well, if that ends up being the case with these two teams in the Eastern Conference Final, then that's a long way away, but I would be very happy as a fan to be able to watch a series like that. Gene, thank you so much for your time again this week.
Thanks, Julius.
And that's our program for this week. Thanks to Ian and Julius for their input, to Matt Ladder for his technical expertise, and to you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to What Barrie's Talking About. You can also keep up with What Barrie's Talking About on Blue Sky and X at Barrie360, on our website, Barrie360.com, and there's our daily Kickstart podcasts available from any streaming service and on our website. I'm Dan Blakely. Hope you'll join us again next week.